Okay, there's bad news and good news. Bad news, today's lecture is going to be quite mathematical. The good news, you won't have to do anything by hand, everything we'll do in Excel. Okay, so why do we care about inventories in the supply chain? Well, first of all, there's a lot of money stuck up in inventories, and so companies want to manage their resources more efficiently, and so they want to make sure they're not wasting their money in too much inventories. Yeah? Why do we have inventories at all? Hopefully people know the answer to that already from operations management, but essentially we have inventories because supply cannot meet demand instantaneously. There's a delay, right? So the lead time, right? If supply could meet demand instantaneously, like you had some magic spell like Harry Potter, you could conjure up anything you needed right when you needed it, you wouldn't need to keep inventory, right? And so delays or lead times could lead to inventories, and then any source of variation, because inventory is usually a cheap and effective way to deal with variation. So if you have demand variation, supply variation, variation in quality, just having a bunch of inventory can usually help you with it, though that's not the most cost-effective way long term. If you can do something to deal with variation, that might be better in some situations or many situations. Other than uncertainty and lead times, any other reasons which cause us to keep inventory? So let's say I have enough inventory to take care of the lead time and uncertainty. Is there any other reason I may have more inventory? So this could be sales seasonality, which is, especially when I talk about it in next class, you could have sales peaking in certain time periods. Your capacity limited, you can't make your capacity go up or down, so you build inventory before peak seasons. It's called anticipation inventory. You build inventory in anticipation of a sales hike. Okay, very good. Any other reasons we might have inventory? So we've got three reasons: lead times, variability, sales anticipation. Safety stock is usually deal with variability. That's the stock we deal with variability, right? So the more the variability, the more the safety stock. So usually the less the variability, the less the safety stock. If variability is zero, safety stock zero, right? So very good point. Think about, I don't know if you guys do it, but let's say I'm walking in a store, something is 50% off, it doesn't expire quickly, I'm going to stock up on it, right? So discounts, so sometimes we can get discounts from suppliers. Maybe suppliers trying to get rid of inventory. Maybe supplier has excess capacity. They might give us a discount at certain times. We want to use up the discount so we get more than we need for now, right? That builds inventory as well. Okay, very good. Okay, so inventory costs. A lot of the money is tied up in inventory. And there's cost to maintain inventory, warehousing cost, energy cost, things like that. And most of these costs are driven by the average level of inventory in the system. You can think of inventory like water in a drum, right? Some water is going out, that's you're selling it to customers or to your customer company, so product goes out of your system. Some product is coming into your system, right? So where the level is going to depend on how much stuff is leaving the system versus how much is coming in, right? If you don't have any deliveries for a while, but you're still making sales, so stuff is going out, nothing is coming in, inventory level will start to come down, right? On the other hand, if your sales kind of dry up, you have little bit of sales, and a lot of stuff comes in, inventory level will go up, right? Over time, usually inventory level will fluctuate up and down. And we can just calculate the average of that. So if you work for any company, you want to figure out what's the average level of inventory your company carries, right? Over a year or over a quarter, how would you do that? How would you figure out the average inventory level in your company? Yeah, you just run a report in the IT system, tell it to give you inventory for different times of the year, maybe end of every day or end of every week. You get different inventory snapshots for different times, take the average. That's the average level, right? And you can just calculate average easily in Excel, just use equals average or whatever you want to do, right? Right, so you can figure out the average level of inventory pretty easily. Okay, again, this should be review. What factors lead to less inventories? What factor lead to larger inventories? So you can think about every company faces two types of forces, and the balance of these forces will tend to determine the average inventory level in the company. So what drives inventory down? Basically cost. Inventory has all these types of costs, and we want to reduce cost as much as possible. So that's the force which is trying to drive inventory levels down. Cost of capital is money tied up in inventory. Storage and handling cost or warehousing cost or wherever inventory sits. You have some workers maintaining that space, you're paying rent or some sort of money on that space, utilities on that space, right? Usually inventory, there's insurance as well. If your warehouse burns up in fire, you don't want to end up out of, just in a big, deep financial trouble. So you may have insurance costs to pay. Then you might lose some inventory over time. Things may get spoiled, things may get damaged, things may get stolen, right? So if, let's say, pilferage or all of this shrinkage is 0.1%, you're losing 0.1% of your stock every year. All of these costs are part of the inventory carrying cost. What drives inventory to be high? Well, most of these are associated with reasons we have inventory in the first place. Okay? Customer service. Customer doesn't want to wait. They want the product right now, so we have to keep finished goods inventory to satisfy the customer. Okay? Ordering cost. If there's a huge cost to order each time, then you would want to order less frequently. If you order less frequently, then you place bigger orders and you have lots of inventories. Yeah? Setup cost. If each time you move from making one product to a different product, there's a lot of setup time involved. Then once you do a setup, you run big batches of production and you'll have lots of inventories. Uncertainty, higher it is, higher the inventories. If there are economies of scale in transportation, again, you would order in big batches to take advantage of that, and quantity discounts. If you can take advantage of lower prices, you'll buy a lot in advance and build inventories. Okay, so let's see, how do we manage inventory? There are essentially three main decisions which determine how we manage inventory. Okay? The first one is when we place an order, okay, the order could be with a supplier, right? We place an order with a supplier, send us this much amount. The order could be a production order. We tell the production department, produce this much because I want finished goods inventory of this much. So when we say replenishment or place an order, it doesn't mean it's always to the supplier. It depends on where you are. So if you are making finished goods inventory, you might be just placing the order with the production department. If you're talking about some component inventory, it might be an order you place with your supplier. If you're a retailer, it's usually always an order with the manufacturer, but sometimes it could be an order with a distributor company or a wholesaler company or something like that. Okay? So who we place the order to is going to vary based on the situation. But essentially, if you have a bunch of inventory at some point in the supply chain and you want to manage that inventory, there's three key decisions. One, whenever you place an order, how much to order? Okay? Do you place an order for one item, 10 pieces, 100 pieces? How much do you order? Two, when do you order? So if you're managing inventory, how low does the inventory need to be for you to place a replenishment order? Okay? And three, how frequently do you evaluate the inventory? Okay? So the three popular policies that are used in practice: continuous review, frequent review, periodic review. As the name suggests, this one you're kind of going OCD on the inventory, looking at it all the time. As soon as it hits some threshold, you place the order right away. This one, you come and check the inventory frequently, maybe end of every workday, or thrice a week, twice a week. This one, you check the inventory much less often. Okay? And so, well, we'll talk about towards the end, why do we need these? Because now, most companies would have their inventory levels being maintained by a computer system. Right? In the past, before computers, you would have inventory maintained on some sort of a ledger. People would go into the stock room at some frequency and update the ledger and actually count items and stuff like that. So these two would make sense in those times, that end of the day you check your inventory, after a month you check your inventory, right? But now, since everything is in computer, why would you do this? Why not every because the computer doesn't spend a lot of time or energy checking stuff up, you can have an algorithm which monitors inventory levels continuously and can flag or reorder whenever it's required. Okay? So usually in computer systems there are certain transactions which affect inventory, like sales. Whenever something is sold, the computer system will automatically reduce inventory because something went out of the system, right? Which is why, sometimes managers kind of get upset with cashiers. Let's say you bought two different items which have the same price, and the cashier just scans the first item 2 times, right? Because it doesn't matter, it's the same price. Well, your inventory records got messed up because your inventory records show you sold 2 of one thing, whereas you only sold 1 of one thing and 1 of another thing, right? So whenever there's a transaction in the system which affects inventory, your computer system will update the inventory automatically, and you can set it up to flag or automatically do a purchase order when inventory goes too low. Yeah? So that's basically continuous review, QR. So let's start with that, and then we'll talk about the other two. In continuous review systems, the first thing we calculate is the Q. Q is going to stand for, in our inventory management topics, for the batch or lot size. How much do you order each time you place an order? Okay? So hopefully all of you have seen this formula called the economic order quantity, where you try to, you have a trade-off between ordering cost and holding cost, and you try to minimize the total cost. So if you go to Blackboard, you can download this Excel file, the SCM Inventory Workhorse. The very first tab here shows you the economic order quantity formula, or how to calculate Q. So you need to have 4 different numbers, 4 values to calculate the lot size. The first thing you need is the annual demand of the item. Okay? On average, how much do you expect to sell in 1 year? Okay? So that you put in here. It says annual demand, symbol capital D. Only change the green cells because the yellow cells are like formulas which will update automatically. Okay? The second thing we need is the cost per order. So why would there be a cost per order? Sometimes there could be a fixed transportation expense. So when you order from the supplier, the transportation company has to go load up a truck, and they might say to do a particular pickup, we charge you $100 to do a pickup. So the more orders you place, the more pickups they do. Each pickup costs you $100. If it's an order from an international supplier, then sometimes you have to open a letter of credit to be able to pay the supplier. And there might be a fee. The bank might charge you a fee because you can't usually Venmo money to your supplier or something like that. So usually you have to go through banking channels. So you go to your bank, you say, I want to pay the supplier this much. Bank has to do a bunch of paperwork with an international transaction, right? And so that has some costs. So each time you place an order, you might have some financial cost to pay the supplier. So that would go into this number here, the cost per order. Any sort of fixed cost which happens each time you place an order, so you create a purchase order in the system, you pay the supplier, all of this process, all the fixed cost in that process goes here. Yeah. Sometimes companies will say, okay, I have 2 employees, and these 2 employees, all they do is create purchase orders. So and I create, 10,000 purchase orders in a year, so I'm going to assign their salary to the ordering cost as well, because if I was not ordering, I would use these employees in some other area of my company, and they won't be assigned to this activity. So sometimes this can also include a portion of the salary. If it takes 20 minutes to make a purchase order, it might include the labor cost of 20 minutes for your employees here as well. Okay? So that's 2 inputs. The third input we need is what are we going to pay the supplier for what we are buying. Here you're going to include the variable transportation costs. So if you are going to pay the supplier $500 for something, but you also have to pay $50 per piece to get it transported or something, then you would add that part of transportation cost here too. In other words, this is what's called the landed cost, what it costs to bring the item to your warehouse, right, or your manufacturing plant. So variable transportation costs that increase with item quantity go here. Fixed transportation costs that just depend on a pickup or something doesn't increase with item quantity go here. And so you figure out those numbers based on your situation. Then you should be able to go to accounting and tell them, give me the inventory carrying cost percentage. They should be able to give you a percentage, which is going to be, they're going to look at their cost of capital and mark it up. So if your cost of capital is 10% or 15%, they're going to mark it up to account for inventory obsolescence, warehousing cost, all of those costs give you a number, right? So what this number means is if you hold $1 of inventory for 1 year, you pay 20% of that in costs. So you pay 20 cents for every dollar of inventory you hold for 1 whole year, right? So that's what it says. When you plug all these numbers in, and the formula is here, it computes the optimal order quantity for you. So in this example, annual demand 12,000, ordering cost is 4,000, each item is $500 worth. This is the carrying cost. The optimal quantity for us is to order 980 pieces each time we place an order. Okay? Then it also tells you that if you do that, on average you place 12 and a fraction orders per year, because 980 times this number equals the annual demand. You're going to order enough to meet the demand. So you'll place about 12 orders, about 1 order a month. Okay? Flow time is the average time an item that you buy will spend in the system. So if you order big lots or a lot of amount, then this would go up, because if you order a huge lot of stuff, it'll take a long time for you to sell all of that items, right? So on average right now with this lot size, an item we buy spends about 15 days in our system before it gets sold on average. Right? So it'll give you all of that. If you scroll down, it will give you, with this policy, with this ordering and this demand, this is your holding cost for the whole year. This is dollars per year, ordering cost per year, and your total cost per year. Okay? Notice that at the optimal order quantity, these two costs are always going to be equal. Okay? Okay. Now, let's say that you realize that maybe you can save some transportation cost if instead of 980 you order 1,000, maybe because 1,000 just fits into your truck nicely into one truck or something. So you can just, you know, don't change this because this is a formula, but you could do sort of what if analysis to see what the cost would be if this went up to 1,000. Okay. Okay. Any questions about figuring out Q, how much to order? Okay, hopefully everybody remembers this from operations management. Okay, now, oftentimes in supply chains, we might say I have 4 suppliers or 3 suppliers in one region, and I'm going to place an order so that I combine the shipment from them into one order. Or you have just one supplier you order 3 or 4 products from. So you say I'm going to make one order with this one supplier and order these 3 or 4 products. Especially true for retailers where you might be ordering 20, 30, 50 products from P&G, might be ordering 100 products from Unilever, things like that. So when you have this multi-product scenario, and if you do this calculation separately for each product, that may not be very accurate, because these costs here and here may be less because you combine multiple products on a purchase order. So imagine an employee who needs to make 4 purchase orders for 4 different items. They might spend a lot more time versus making one purchase order with all 4 items on it, right? So your ordering costs can reduce if you have more items per purchase order, things like that. So we can update this formula to handle that. For that we need some extra information, which is how does the ordering cost S depend on the products. I have 3 products here. I have called them L, M, and H. You can call them A, B, C. You can call them 1, 2, 3. Okay? So now my fixed ordering cost has a fixed ordering cost, which is the ordering cost to make a purchase order, plus I have the ordering cost for product 1, ordering cost for product 2, ordering cost for product 3. Okay? These could be because making a purchase order with multiple items takes longer. These could be because your truck is picking up items from 3 different locations, so each pickup costs you more, things like that. Okay? So if you have 3 products or any number of products, to calculate the optimal order quantity EOQ, you first have to calculate what is the ordering frequency, how many orders are you going to make in the year, because all of these will come together as one shipment each time you make the order. Once you calculate the ordering frequency, then you can divide the demand by N star to calculate the size of each order. Okay? So for this, let me show you the Excel page. You go to lot sizing with multiple products. You fill in all the inputs. So here I have 3 products in this example, and they have different levels of demand. So the annual demand goes here, here, and here. Then my cost information, I have 2 types of ordering cost, a common ordering cost of $4,000 per order, and then an additional cost of $1,000 per item on that order, okay? Which adds up to 7,000 total. This is just the sum of these 4 numbers, which is your S star. Okay? Then your items may have different costs. You just put in the cost here, 500, 200, whatever the costs are, and your inventory holding cost right here. Okay? And then this is the same formula from the slides built in. So given this situation, it is optimal for us to order 9.75 times a year. Okay? So once you calculate the optimal order frequency, we work with about 10 orders, divide the demand by about 10, and you get how much you should order each time of each product. So in this situation, what will happen is, you place an order of this of product 1, this of product 2, this of product 3 as one purchase order, or it will come in one shipment, right? And then next time you'll again place an order with this combination, and the next time, and the next time. Okay? Again, the total holding cost and the total ordering cost are equal, and this is your total cost. This is the holding cost per product that you will incur with this multi-product kind of system. Okay? So for our first QR system, we have answered the question how much to order. That's your Q, right? If you're just one product ordering individually or separately, just go to the first Excel sheet, EOQ. If you're ordering multiple products together, you go to the second Excel sheet, you figure out the quantity for each product, right? That's how much to order. Now we're going to answer when to reorder. Okay? So in this system, we're going to order before our inventory runs out, right? If you go to 0, obviously you're going to reorder. But why do we want to order before our inventory runs out? That is because there's a lead time. Okay? So if you think about your inventory as the blue line, which is going down, why is the blue line going down? Well, because you're selling stuff. As you sell stuff, your inventory falls. Okay? Before your inventory hits 0, you want to place an order. Why? Because the order is not going to arrive immediately. It's going to take some time to arrive. So you place the order when you have enough stock left to cover the lead time. Okay? And if you order here, the stock will arrive after this many days. And whenever you get an incoming shipment, you see your inventory jump back up. So if you plot your inventory over time, whenever you see a spike going up, that means you got an incoming shipment. Right? And when you receive it, your inventory goes up. Right. I remember the first time I learned about inventory management, I said, oh, this is cool. I can, write a program to simulate stuff because, all these formulas have certain assumptions. If you do simulations, you can simulate, what real life scenario is, figure optimal quantities like that. So I wrote this program which does this simulation, and when I looked at the output, my inventory was way higher than what these formulas would suggest, because what was happening here is, as soon as my inventory went low to the reorder point, I placed an order, but then the next day I placed another order, the next day I placed another order. Why? Because all of this time inventory is below the ROP. This is the reorder point. And whenever inventory is below the ROP, it's supposed to reorder, but that is partially true. When you compare inventory to reorder point, you have to add in the orders you have placed but not received. So at this point, your inventory is at the reorder point, but at this point, you'll not reorder. Why? Because inventory is here, plus you already placed a reorder, so your inventory position is actually up here. So inventory position basically means your current inventory level plus any orders you have placed but not yet received. So they're kind of like in the pipeline. Sometimes this dotted, the difference between the dotted line and the solid line is called pipeline inventory. So here I have this much real inventory and then this much pipeline inventory. Like it's in the pipeline, it's going to arrive, it's just not arrived yet. Okay. So when we do when to order, we always compare the inventory in the pipeline as well. Okay. Now, if there was no variability in demand, which means we sell at a constant rate and the lead time is always reliable, then you always order when you have enough inventory left just to cover the lead time. Okay? But things are variable. You might sell more one day, you might sell less one day, lead time may not be reliable, so we usually don't let the inventory hit zero. We usually add a bunch of buffer stock here, which is your safety stock here. So your inventory kind of just hits the safety stock level, goes back up. It doesn't usually eat into the safety stock. Sometimes it can eat into the safety stock, but then never hits zero, so you never run out of stock. Question at the back? Or just warming hands? Okay. Okay. So your reorder point is going to be how much you expect to sell during lead time plus safety stock. Okay. So there's two parts to the reorder. Average demand during lead time plus safety stock. Average demand during lead time is just your demand per day times lead time in days. The units don't matter as long as you keep the same units. If you have demands per week, lead time should be weeks. Demand per month, lead time should be months. Demand per day, lead time should be days. Right? As long as all the units match up, what units you have don't really matter. And then safety stock depends on this factor which measures the variability of demand during the lead time. Okay? Multiplied by Z, which is a service factor which tells us how likely are we to run out of stock. Okay? So essentially what you're doing is this with Z. What you're saying is that I want to control the probability of being out of stock. If the probability of being out of stock is 5%, then I don't want to order the average demand, because if you order the average demand, what's the probability of going out of stock? Demand is variable. Can you give an exact percentage though? So my average demand for tomorrow is 50, and I have 50 in stock, right? Average demand, but demand is variable. It could be more than 50, less than 50. What's the probability I'll be out of stock tomorrow? I have 50 pieces in stock, average demand is 50. So I'm right on the average. Zero. Probability I'll be, there's a zero, no, 50%, right? Half the time, if it's not very skewed distribution, you're going to exceed, average is kind of in the middle. So about half the time you're over the average, but half the time you're below the average. Right? So if you have just enough inventory to take care of the average, half the time, which means that during half of these ordering cycles, half of them you'll be out of stock, half of them you'll be fine because sometimes demand is going to be below the average too, right? But half the time you'll be out of stock. So by moving out here, by multiplying by the Z factor, you're reducing, here you're 50%, the more out you go, the less probability becomes. So here maybe you're 30%, 20%, 10%, you keep going out until you are okay with the percentage of being out of stock. Okay? So if it's 1%, you put 1% here and you can find Z. Now you don't have to do any of that. All you have to know is that the cycle service level is the probability of not being out of stock. Okay? So here is 85%, which means if you put your reorder point here, or is the reorder point right here, there's an 85% chance you'll not be out of stock and only a 15% chance you'll be out of stock. Okay? So let's look at our workhorse. Here's the QR system tab. Okay, let's go up here. Here are all the inputs we need. We need demand data. What is the demand per time period? What is the standard deviation of that demand? How much is the demand variable, right? If this is demand per day, everything has to go by days. If this is demand per week, everything has to go by weeks, okay? What if you're given, sometimes the students kind of get stuck here because in the question, it'll give them the annual demand, okay? Or it will give them the daily demand, and then when they can do this thing, but when they go here to lot sizing, this needs annual demand. Okay? You can always go back and forth. If you have daily demand, multiply by 365 days in a year, you get annual demand. If you have annual demand, divide by 365 days in a year, you get daily demand. You can go kind of back and forth, multiplying divided by 365. Same thing for weeks. If you have annual demand and you want weekly demand, approximately 52 weeks in a year, which is good enough for our purposes, divide annual demand by 52, you get demand per week. If you have weekly demand, multiply by 52, you get annual demand. So you can go back and forth. Whichever units the question is in, you can kind of go back and forth. Yeah? The units you pick should basically be based on the standard deviation, because standard deviation you can't go back and forth just by simply multiplying or adding. So if standard deviation is, usually they give you the lower units, the lower time period. They'll give you daily or weekly demand with the standard deviation, and then you multiply to go up to the annual one, right? Because for the annual you don't need the standard deviation for the EOQ formula. Okay, these are the symbols which will help you map these cells to the formulas, because the formulas are based on these symbols. So I put the symbols here so you can see what's happening here and map it to the slides. Then this is the lead time, okay, and then this is the standard deviation of the lead time, assuming lead time is variable. Now if you're not given a standard deviation, you're going to assume that quantity is fixed, okay, is constant. So if you're not given a standard deviation for lead time, that means lead time is fixed or constant, then what should you put for the standard deviation of lead time? You have to put something. What's the standard deviation of fixed quantities? 0. They never move. Standard deviation is how much you move off the mean. They never move. So standard deviation is 0, right? So saying standard deviation is 0 is another way of saying this quantity is fixed. So the question will not say lead time of 2 days, standard deviation of 0. It will just say lead time of 2 days, full stop. So you plug in 0 because it doesn't move, right? Okay. Then again, you need the item cost, the holding cost, the cycle service level, which is, you decide how much you want this number to be. Okay. And then it will tell you you need to keep a safety stock of 733. Your reorder point is 5733. What this means is whenever your inventory level hits this number, you place a replenishment order. Okay. For how much? EOQ quantity, which you calculated before. Okay. So this is your inventory policy. Is really simple. Whenever inventory is at this value or lower, immediately place an order for EOQ quantity order. Okay. The 730 is part of this. So your safeties, now part of the 5733 is 733, which is a safety stock, right? That is to take care of demand variability. What is the 5,000 there for? So think about the lead time, that's 2 weeks. Your demand per week is 2,500. So 5,000 is just the expected demand over 2 weeks. That's the average demand over 2 weeks. So that's where the 5,000 comes from. And then the 733 additional on top of that is your safety stock to take care of demand variability. Together, average demand plus safety stock give you the reorder point. Okay. Then if you put in your lot size, the inputs below the yellow one here are used to calculate these statistics, which are kind of important. So if you don't plug in these values, you'll still get the values here, but you won't get the gray statistics. Okay? So what these statistics tell us, if you plug in your EOQ quantity, which you find here, you can just copy paste the number here, right? This is a different example, but whatever the number is for your question, and you plug in periods per year. Why? Because this is demand per period, this is demand per week. Okay. For some of these statistics, we need to calculate the annual demand. So what do you multiply 2,500 by to get annual demand? Multiply by 52. Okay. So we have 13 ordering cycles in a year. Average inventory level is this much. Holding cost per year is this much. And then we'll talk about stockouts and fill rates in a minute. So we'll see what these are in a short while. Okay. But this is basically telling you with this policy you'll have lost sales of 714 pieces every year. Okay. And that's a fill rate, which we'll talk about in a while what that is. Okay. This is your stock out cost per year with this policy. Okay. So that's the continuous review system. Now the continuous review system is, people like it because it tends to have very little safety stock. Okay, so it can, if you want to drive your safety stocks down, and if you don't have continuous review, one easy way is move to continuous review. That'll push your safety stock down. As you'll see, for similar numbers or the same numbers, you'll have a higher safety stock level for the other systems. The reason is very simple. The reorder point places the order immediately, the QR system places the order immediately when you hit the reorder point. There's no delay. Okay? In the other systems, there is a delay, and so you have to have more safety stock because you're going to order after a delay, and it's going to arrive even later with the lead time. So you need safety stock to not just protect for the lead time, but to also protect for the delay in ordering. Okay? Here, the safety stock is only protecting for the lead time, so it's the lowest. If you want to drive this down even more, then you have to reduce the lead time, because if you reduce the lead time, this will go down even more. Or the variability, because two things affect safety stock: lead times and variability. If you drive them to zero, safety stock will be zero. Okay, so the formula we use for safety stock, which calculates the standard deviation of demand during lead time, are given here. It's useful to know because this kind of tells you, okay, what are the factors which drive this safety stock? What do we need to address to reduce safety stock? But you don't have to worry about it because they're built in here. Right, the formula is already built in here and here, right? And so you don't have to worry about the exact formula. Though you need to know, like, if lead time goes down, this will go down, safety stock will go down, and so forth, right? What leads to what? This is all really just this formula. Okay? If your lead time is not variable, this goes to zero, this term drops out, this becomes that. Right? And if your demand is not variable, this goes to zero, the whole thing goes to zero, you come here. So this is the general formula. If lead time is constant, this goes to zero, you come here. If demand is constant, this goes to zero, you come up here. So there's basically just one formula, as long as you put in the right zeros. Okay, let's talk about the second system, which is frequent review. The way this system works is you have two parameters called small s and big S. Small s is kind of like your reorder point. Okay? So whenever you check your inventory, you check, is it at a small s level or lower? If it is at the small s level or lower, you don't order just EOQ quantity, you order the difference between big S and current inventory level. So this is small s, this is big S. If you are here, you're going to order enough to take it back up to the big S. So you're always trying to go back up to the big S if you fall below small s. Okay? Now the formulas to calculate small s and big S are kind of more complicated than the other formulas, so we're not going to use them. What we can do is an approximate solution for SS is to set the small s equal to the reorder point you just calculated above, and set the big S equal to reorder point plus Q. So basically you have the QR system values, but you use them in an SS format. It's an approximately okay solution, but you can get more optimal small s, big S values through simulations or other optimization techniques, which we are not going to cover. But if you have some software that can hopefully do it for you, or you can do simulations in Excel to figure out the optimal values yourself too. Okay? So that's frequent review, which is kind of like QR. The one thing you would do when you have to keep in mind you're calculating the reorder point is to inflate your lead time to include the time period after which you check inventory. Let's say in SS you check inventory at the end of every working day, add 1 day to your lead time and calculating R. Because you're not checking all the time, checking after 1 day. So inflate your lead time by 1 day. If you check inventory once a week, inflate lead time by 1 week and then calculate these numbers. Okay, let's go to the third system, which is periodic review. As the name suggests, we check inventory infrequently after a period of P days. Okay? And when we check inventory, we kind of get shocked, or it's so low, and then we place an order to take it back up to a target level T. So it's kind of like SS as well, very similar to SS. But you have a target level T. There's no small level though. And you check inventory every P days. Wherever inventory is, you order enough to take it back up to the target level T. Okay? This has a lot of safety stock. Why? Because you have to order enough, or the safety stock has to protect you for the period in which nobody's checking inventory. Nobody checks inventory for P days. And then when they do check inventory, they're going to get the shipment after another L days. So you have to have enough safety stock to protect you against P plus L days. That's a long time period to protect against. So you have lots of safety stock in this system. Okay, so again, the formulas are here, but for you, you'll just go to this slide right here. Right? These are all the same values, except P is obviously new. This is the period for review, that's 4 weeks. And you can see that your safety stock went up to 1570 for the same values here where it was 733. Okay? That increase is because you're checking inventory every 4 weeks, not all the time, so that inflated your safety stock. Okay? The target level T is also computed here. If you look at the average inventory level, that's 6570. That's again much higher than this system here. So you're going to have more inventory in the system and more safety stock. So why use anything but the QR system? Because the QR system gives the lowest safety stock levels, right? Checking all the time. As soon as you're at ROP, you place the order. So it's really good. Saves us inventory cost, low inventory levels, low safety stock levels. What's the downside? Why would you ever want to use periodic review? Shane?
You have a much higher transport cost because you're ordering more frequently. And
Right.
have higher labor costs for whoever's.
Right. So if your purchase orders are not automated, you have to manually create them. What the system would do is it will send an email or a flag, hey, place order for this item, and you have somebody like full time just looking at these flags, emails, doing the purchase order in the system, right? So other than just you could have somebody in another system, you could have somebody just spend 1 hour at the end of the day, do all the purchase orders for that day, and then they could do something else the rest of the day. Here you have like dedicated resource to take the order, so ordering costs will go up, right? Then, because orders are placed individually at different times of the day, you can't batch orders together. You may have 3 orders all going to Ohio, but they're all going to get their separate transportation because they were all placed at different times, and you didn't know when you were placing the first order that you'll see 2 other orders from Ohio. So you couldn't batch the orders together, save on transportation costs, right? So it's very good in keeping inventories low, but it's not very good to allow you to batch other activities like the ordering activity or to batch transportation together for cost savings.
You also have to generate work rate.
Yeah, you need to have a lot of information accuracy. If your system shows you different inventory than that physically is there, then again, this system is not going to work well. It's very lean, has low safety stock levels, and if you have information accuracy issues or physical system mismatch issues, which we talk in the logistics course why that happens, how you take care of those issues. There's lots of reasons that can happen. We have huge warehouses now, right? So somebody puts a pallet in a place and scans the wrong barcode. It gets put in the system somewhere here where physically it's somewhere there, and then you can't find stuff in warehouses if they get lost like that. So there are many reasons why the physical inventory may not match the system inventory, and then you need some buffer, and then you can't trust the computer to do everything because the inventory levels don't match the reality. Very good, right? So for all these reasons, often companies will do something like this, okay? So for SKUs or products which sell very quickly like hotcakes, and they're really important for your business, you always want to be in stock, they'll put them on continuous review, they'll add dedicated resources to monitor their inventory, place purchase orders on time, because here you really don't want to be out of stock on these items, because customers for these items demand a high level of service. These customers are highly profitable. You want to give them a high level of service. You've already decided that, so you would do this for your very profitable, fast-selling items. Okay? For a lot of the items, you might just do SS, where at the end of every day or end of every other day, somebody checks the inventory levels, somebody places the purchase orders. So you're doing kind of like periodic review, but very often. And then for very slow-moving items where you don't care about being out of stock, you'll go to periodic review. But hey, this is going to increase our safety stocks, right? But we can do this. So let me show you. So let's say this item I'm selling here is a slow-moving item, and I don't really care that much about this item, so I want to move this to periodic review. If I keep everything, let me move this to 90 to compare actually. Okay, and this is 90. Okay. If I keep everything the same and I have a service level of 90%, my safety stock will go up from here 906 to 1570. Okay. So I wanted to save money, but I'm actually losing money by moving it right here, right? Because I'm just having more inventory of this item. So what you can do is you can tell Excel, go to data, what if analysis, goal seek, and tell Excel how much does the service level need to fall so that this inventory becomes what it was before. So I want to keep the same level of inventory, 906. So you say goal seek, set this cell to 906 by changing the service level. Okay, so if you drop your service level to 77%, your inventory would stay the same, 906, like it was before, right? And now you can move on periodic review and have the same inventory level. Though there's a higher chance now you could be out of stock of this item sometimes. Okay, but you might be willing to live with the higher chance because it's not a A or B item. It's like C, D item. We sell it very infrequently. Okay. Now you can do what if goal seek. Make sure that the changing cell is not a formula cell. This is not a formula. This is an input, right? All these green cells are just inputs. Okay, but these are formula cells. So you can't say change this cell to goal seek because then goal seek will overwrite your formula. Okay, so whenever you use goal seek, make sure the changing cell is always a cell which is an input cell and not a formula cell. Just click on it to make sure there's no formula there. Okay? Otherwise it will overwrite your formula and then you have to open your Excel sheet again. Okay, so that's how we can kind of pick different policies for different SKUs and based on how much service we want to offer. Now let's tie all this in with customer service. Okay. Let's look at this data. This is data for 10 ordering cycles. What's an ordering cycle? If you're on continuous review system, each lead time is an ordering cycle. So if lead time is 2 weeks, every 2 weeks is an ordering cycle. If you are, because that's safety stock is protecting against only 2 weeks. That's the protection interval is your ordering cycle. If you are on periodic review, then the time period P after which you review plus the lead time is your ordering cycle. Okay. If you are on SS and you review once a week, then that 1 week plus the lead time is your ordering cycle. Okay. Okay. It's just a time period over which you need safety stock to protect you. So let's say we look at 10 of these ordering cycles. If our ordering cycle is 1 month, you just look at 10 months. And we have demand for each month, and then we have how much stock outs we have. Now usually you wouldn't have this data because if you're like a retailer, customer just walks away and you don't know there was a stock out. Okay. You can kind of estimate it as somebody here mentioned, I think McKinsey mentioned that when your inventory goes to 0 for that day, you look at the average demand and you say, okay, that's how much I lost sales on that day. So you could estimate this using statistics, or if you have back ordering, this could be your back orders, or you ask your sales staff to kind of keep track of lost sales so you get this data somehow. Okay. Now, out of 10 ordering cycles, twice I was out of stock. Right? If you look at stockouts, only twice I had stockouts. So that means 8 times out of 10 I was fine. So my cycle service level effectively here is 80%. So I probably set my inventory levels to have a cycle stock CSL of 80%. Okay? That's that CSL input in your Excel sheet. Okay? However, when management talks about being out of stock, and if they're not well versed in supply chain operations, they will often say, okay, give me enough inventory to meet 99% of demand or 95% of demand. Okay? Often they're thinking of a different metric because if you look at it, your total demand was 1450. Okay? 55 out of 4 in 50 is a pretty tiny percentage. It's way less than 20%. So I didn't lose 20% demand, as that number would suggest. I only lost a small fraction of demand. Okay? How much that fraction is, you can actually calculate. So that fraction is about 4%. So I filled 96% of the demand there was. That's what fill rate is. What percentage of demand did you meet? Okay, and you lost 4%. So even though my cycle service level is 80%, my fill rate is really high, 96%. How can that be? What explains this difference? Yeah, so basically what happens here is whenever you're out of stock, we count that as one instance of being out of stock. Even if you're out of stock just by a little bit, only lost 10 units of sale. But this whole time period is going to count as out of stock time period for CSL. Okay? For the fill rate metric, this would only count as, well, it's just 10 pieces, it's not a lot. Because you could be out of stock and be out of stock by just one unit. Let's say you went out of stock, you missed one customer, and then immediately got more inventory. Right? So that's just, you were just barely out of stock. You were just out of stock, you just lost one sale. Right? That shouldn't count for being out of stock for the whole ordering cycle. So CSL is kind of very punishing. If you're out of stock even by one unit, it will count you out of stock for the whole ordering cycle. Because CSL only counts, well, were you out of stock or not in each ordering cycle, right? But fill rate will check how much were you out of stock by. Were you out of stock by a lot? Do you lose a lot of sales? Do you lose a little bit of sales? Okay? So fill rate can still be very high even though you frequently go out of stock because you go out of stock by a small quantity only. Okay? So fill rate is the percentage of the total demand that you actually fulfill from inventory. Okay, so we go back to our workhorse, and if you go down, gives us the fill rate. So notice when I move my cycle service level to 77%, here it was 90%, and my fill rate was 99.67. Look how little my fill rate dropped, 98.36. It did drop, but didn't drop as much. Okay, so I do go out of stock frequently, but because my demand is not very variable, okay, this is about what 20% variability, 500 over 2500, and my lead time is very stable. It's not variable because I have very little variability in the system. Even with a 77% cycle service level, I get a fill rate of 98%. However, let's see what happens if you increase the variability. Let's say this variability in demand goes up, and my lead time also becomes variable now. Okay? For the same 77%, your fill is starting to drop because there's more variability in the system. Okay? So fill rate is a very useful metric because people understand this intuitively better, because that just says, okay, I'm meeting 98% of the demand, or I'm meeting 96% of the demand. Versus, I'm in stock this percentage of ordering cycles, which nobody tends to understand. So often we work with fill rates. Now, how do you convert a fill rate to cycle service level? You're going to complicated formulas. Let's say your manager tells you, I want this fill rate to be 97%. We'll go to goal seek. Okay, which is set this cell to 0.97. Notice this is formatted as a percentage, so the actual value is 0.96. So you have to type 0.97 here, which formatted as a percentage, Excel will show it as 97%. By changing this number. So if you go up to 80% here, this is about 97%, so you know how much safety stock to have and all of those things. Okay? So you can just using goal seek, you can figure out that if manager tells you 97% here, and you could manually adjust it. Let's go up to 81, and that's almost exactly 97. So, because all the inventory formulas work off this number, and management usually wants to control this number, right? So just put in all of your formulas here, do the work, just assume some value here, and then use goal seek to change this until you get to 97% here. Okay? So then you know that, okay, this inventory policy here will give you a fill rate of 97%. Any questions about? So here I'm explaining what the formulas in the Excel are. It's for your interest if you want to know, because basically this number and this number, these three numbers drive everything. And so if you want to understand what the formulas for these are, I can tell you in the slides how these values come about, but that's optional. On the final exam, all you need to do is come look at the question, plug values in the green cells, read the output here, read the output here, right? Or at most do goal seek, because I might tell you in the exam, okay, do the inventory policy with this at 96%, right? And then you use goal seek to set this, and then you have your policy. Okay, let's do a couple of things. Okay, a couple of examples which are going to help you be well prepared. So the first example I'm going to do, and then the second example you're going to do. Okay, let's say we want to figure out what happens to safety stock as this number moves up and down. Okay, so we want to figure out if safety stock is 0.7 and then we increase it by 1% each time, and what happens to safety stock as this number goes up all the way to 90%. I went down too much. This actually, what I'm going to show you now, is one of the main reasons Excel was invented. It's called doing what-if analysis. Okay, so you have a model with some inputs and some outputs, and the question is, how does the output change with the input? You want to map the input to the output. If I move this input up or down, what happens to my output? Okay, so I'm going to move my input of cycle service level right here from 0.7 all the way to 0.95. Okay, the slow-mo way to do this is to just start here, plug and check, 0.7. Okay, oops, sorry, no, 70%. Okay, this is your safety stock. You go to 71. This is my safety stock. You just write it down. 72, write it down. 73, write it down. Right, take you a long time. Excel will automate that. You just put in the values of the input here, and Excel will automatically put the values of the output here. You just select this table. Okay, I think I need to select this. I don't need to select the, I haven't had enough time. So you go here to data table. Okay, and because you're going down a column, okay, I have to do one more thing here. So set this to 70, and here you'll have to say equals your output, which is this number right here. Okay, so you tell Excel which cell to copy down. Then you select this table. Okay, and you go to what if data table. Because you're going down the column, you're going to select column input cell. Okay, and then you're going to say replace this 70% by the values I gave you. Okay, and I want to make sure something happens here. Let me format these as percentage so that there is no confusion on what we are talking about. Perfect, because that cell is formatted as a percentage. Data, what if data table, column input cell, this one, 70%. And here it gave you the safety stock for all the different service levels. And then you can plot it, you can find what level gives, if you want safety stock to be a maximum of 2,000, you can say, okay, what level gives safety stock 2,000? You can answer all sorts of questions like this. You can do this with any input. If you wanted to figure out, okay, how does your safety stock change with different variability in demand, you could do it with this variable. You could do it with lead time. If your lead time goes up or down, how does your safety stock change? So you could do it with any input to the model. Any of these green cells you could put on this column and then figure out what the safety stock is going to be here using data tables. Now you can watch the video if you don't remember, but I encourage you to go to these links, which are tutorials on data table tool in Excel. It's a very standard Excel tool. A lot of people use it. You have tons of YouTube videos on how to do a data table, right? If you forget, you can watch this video or go online, figure out how to use the data table. Data tables is very powerful because when you have Excel sheets like the one we have here, you can figure out how does some output of interest change with some input of interest. For example, here, let's say you want to reduce your flow time. Maybe you have a perishable product, right? It's like food, maybe this is food, and so a lot of food gets expired in 15 days. So you want to reduce your flow time. So what do you want to see? You want to see, well, if I reduce my ordering cost, I can order more frequently, and this will go down if this goes down. So you could do it here. So if your ordering cost goes down from 4,000 in increments of $100, you do this minus $100, and then you take it down and you see, okay, how much down do I need to go? Oh, I took it down way too much. To get my flow time to be 7 days. And here you say flow time. Okay? And you do, for the first row, you do equals this cell, and then you just do a data table. And that'll show you what happens. Now here, you'll change the ordering cost. Okay. And so you see, as the ordering costs go down, the flow time goes down. So if you want your flow time to be 7 days, you have to take your ordering cost down to 900, right? Okay. Or you could do goal seek as well. Set goal, tell goal seek to take this, or you can just manually do it too. You can just say, okay, what happens if we go to 2,000? Go down to 10 days, right? You can just manually figure it out too, but just trial and error. So the data table just kind of automates your trial and error work for you, right? Okay, now we have 10 minutes left. If you don't finish it, that's fine. I will upload the answer on Thursday, but I want to give you a shot. So what you want to do is you want to do this problem using this Excel sheet. Okay, so let's read this problem. We have 4 suppliers for the same part. Okay, and we split our demand equally across the 4 suppliers. Okay, so our total annual demand is 40,000, but we ask each supplier to ship us 10,000. Maybe they have a capacity constraints, maybe there are 4 different manufacturing plants of the same supplier for whatever reason, or we source from 4 suppliers. It's a critical part for us. Okay, so each supplier, the demand is 10,000 annual demand. Okay. Our ordering costs are mostly coming from transportation, because each stop we make, we have to pay $100 for a pickup, and the total truck costs $500. Okay, so the fixed ordering cost, each time you place an order, the truck has to go do the pickups, $500 of fixed cost plus $100 per pickup. Okay, and we want to figure out how frequently to order and how much to order to minimize our costs with this situation. So you have to map this question to the green values here. Okay, and then you have to kind of extend the model a little bit, because now you have 4 products, right? You have what you order from each supplier is like a different product, so you have 4 different demands, not just 3. Okay. Now demand is fixed, so that will just be 10,000. Okay, so we just copy this over. Okay, that was easy. Now can somebody give me the common ordering cost and the product specific ordering cost based on this? So remember, ordering cost is a fixed cost per order, which in this case comes from the transportation expense we have, because that is a fixed expense per order. Right, it will be 900. How do you get 900? So basically, your common cost is 400. That's the truck that's going to go around pick up stuff. And then each pickup is going to be $100. And you have 4 of those, right? And then you have a 4th one here. So let's extend this here. But this is not going to pick up, because this Excel sheet was designed for 3 products. So wherever you have a formula picking up these 3 cells, you have to expand the formula to pick up the 4th cell as well. Okay, this will be 900. Then what is the cost of each item? That is $50. So you just make all of these 50s, right? Okay. And then you have to make sure that this formula as well, where it's only picking 3, you have to kind of expand these cells to make sure it picks up all 4, like that. And once you expand it, I think that is it. 20% is 20%. You'll be good. Okay. So because this Excel sheet kind of depends on number of products, you may have to kind of adjust the formula here and adjust the formula here to kind of just pick up the number of products that you need. If you have 5 products, you just add a column, do it 5, adjust the formula to be the same.
On period decisions, this I think is extremely important because a lot of organizations face this sort of a decision. So what happens is that what we have covered so far in inventory management is a cyclical pattern where our demand is kind of continuous. So either we have inventory going up or down like a sawtooth pattern, or inventory going like this, but basically we have continuous or continuing demand for our item. So we keep producing in batches, one batch, second batch, third batch. But sometimes we have a different situation. Sometimes things have a very short selling season. So you must produce before the selling season starts, and then you sell as many as you can, and then the season is over and then you can't sell anymore. It's like a one-shot decision making. The best example I can give you is a news vendor. So let's say there is a newspaper vendor, okay, and he must decide how many copies of tomorrow's newspaper to get from the publisher who publishes the newspaper. So if you are a news vendor and you don't have a subscription, let's say you sell newspaper on the subway stop, okay, or you have a corner convenience store where you sell newspapers and you don't have any regular subscribers. So every evening at some time, maybe 8 p.m., 10 p.m., you need to go to the publisher and buy newspaper at the wholesale prices to sell the next day. Now, when the next day comes about, you cannot go back to the publisher and buy more newspapers because whatever the publisher printed are gone. And once that day finishes, if you have any newspapers left over, you must discard them because nobody is going to buy. Let's say you are doing this on Monday night for Tuesday newspapers. On Wednesday, nobody's going to buy the old Tuesday newspapers, so you only have one day to sell them. So this is called any leftover inventory must be salvaged or thrown away. So if you buy too much, you don't sell it, you have to throw away the inventory. No reorders can be placed during the selling season. So once you buy the newspaper from the publisher the night before, during the day when you sell newspapers, if you have a lot of demand and you run out of the newspaper, then you can't go back and get more. Okay. Inventory order must be placed before the season starts to build up the inventory, and then you can just sell that inventory. So there are lots of examples. Winter jackets. Usually the selling season is short, 2 or 3 months. Once the season starts, if you run out of jackets, it's too late to place another order if your supplier is too far in China or something. Holiday merchandise like Thanksgiving related merchandise or Christmas related merchandise like Christmas decorations. It's really hard to sell them after Christmas, and it's really hard to reorder them a few days before Christmas because your suppliers are located in different parts. They can't produce and sell at a short notice. So the key decision is how much inventory to build up before the selling season starts, how much of an order to place with your supplier in advance, so that when you receive that order, you have sufficient inventory to meet demand during the short selling season. If you have too much inventory, you will suffer. You'll lose money because you have to throw away the stuff at the end. If you have too little inventory, again, you're not optimizing your profits because you're not meeting all the demand. So you need just the right amount of inventory in this situation. So let's say you ordered too little. You were risk averse. You said, what if, I don't sell everything? So you place an order of size Q before the selling season starts, but you place a very conservative order. So the demand ends up being more than what you ordered. So now you're going to have what's called a shortage cost. Okay. The unrealized profit per unit. You could have made more profit, but because you were too conservative, you're going to miss out on that. So the shortage cost per unit is called C of S, is the revenue per unit, what you sell each unit for, minus the cost per unit. So if you're talking about Christmas decorations, let's say a particular decoration you sell for $10 per unit, and you buy it for $3 per unit. So the excess demand you could not meet, for each you have lost $7 per unit, because that's the profit you make, and you were too conservative, you ordered too little, so the extra demand that was there but you could not sell to it, you've lost $7 per unit. What happens on the other side? What happens if you order too much? So you're very optimistic, you place a huge order of size Q, but then demand ends up being less than Q. So then the excess quantity that you have left, you're going to have to throw it away. So that leads to a reduction in profit. So for the excess quantity, you paid some value, $3 per unit. But now, because you couldn't sell it, demand was not there, you have to salvage it. Maybe you can, give it to somebody, other company, or ship it to some other region and sell it at a discount. Maybe you can sell it for $1 per unit. So then your loss per unit is 3 minus 1 or $2. A lot of times the salvage value is 0. So then the whole 3 units is your loss. It's called the excess cost, the C excess or CE per unit. Okay. So our total cost, sometimes we'll have a shortage cost, CS, times however much the shortage there was. CS is the shortage cost per unit. Sometimes we'll have an excess, so we'll have an excess cost per unit times however units of excess we had. So we want to minimize both the shortage and excess cost. So we're not going to go over the proof of that, but what ends if you do the calculation, you minimize the total cost. The optimal service level, okay, I'm going to calculate the service level here. The optimal service level is given by the shortage cost per unit divided by the shortage cost per unit plus the excess cost per unit. When you do this calculation, you get a number less than 1, a fraction like 0.5, 0.7, 0.82, you get a number something like this. That's called the optimal service level. Now, service level, what is the service level? Service level is the probability, okay, that your quantity will be less than demand. Okay. Optimal service level means that we want to place an order Q so that the probability that we are, sorry, I said the reverse. Service level is the probability that your quantity that you order is sufficient, is bigger than equal to demand, or in other words, demand is less than equal to your order quantity. So service level is the probability that you will have sufficient stock. You will not have a stock out. Okay, so what is the probability of a stock out? That's just 1 minus the service level. 1 minus service level is the probability of having a stock out. Service level is the probability you will not have a stock out, which means your demand is going to be less than equal to Q. So the optimal service level for us is given by this equation, CS divided by CS plus CE, which is going to give us some number less than 1. Let's say we do this calculation, we get a service level of 0.7. That means order enough units so that the probability that the demand is less than equal to Q should be 0.7. So select a level of Q such that the probability that demand is less than equal to Q comes out to 0.7. That's what the service level tells us. Okay, so if the demand is normally distributed, we can find Q star. Q star is the level that the demand is less than equal to Q star should equal the optimal service level. How do we find Q star? There are two ways. The easiest way is to plug this formula into Excel. You say equals norm.inv, and then you give the service level value, which is 0.7, 0.8, 0.5, whatever you got. Then you tell Excel your average demand level, the mean demand, and the standard deviation of demand. Okay, because what's happening is, your demand has some normal distribution with an average demand, let's call it mu of D, and some standard deviation, sigma of D. And you're saying, give me this Q star value so that the area to the left of Q star, this area is my service level, my optimal service level. Because this area is the probability demand will be less than equal to Q star. That's this area right here. Yeah. If you don't have access to Excel, you can just use the Z table, which will be uploaded on Blackboard. The Z table will give you the Z score for the area under the curve. So in the Z table, you look up 0.7, 0.8, whatever your service level is, and then you look up the Z score corresponding to that probability. Then once you get the Z score, okay, you can scale it to your demand. So your Q star will just be your average demand plus the Z score multiplied by standard deviation of demand. This is just standard statistics. If you're supposed to have taken SCM 211 business statistics, where you would have covered how do we calculate areas under the normal distribution, or if we have the area under the normal distribution, how do we get the corresponding value for that. So here we are doing that opposite kind of thing, where we start off with the area under the normal distribution, which is our service level. We'll look up the Z score for that service level, and then we convert the Z score into our scale, which is the quantity scale, where we add the mean and we multiply by the standard deviation. Let's do an example of this to clarify what exactly we need to do. So let's say we sell winter jackets for a price of $180 and we buy them from our supplier for $110. Well, what does it mean? That our profit on each profit per jacket is 180 minus 110, which is $70. This is going to be our cost of a shortage. If we have a shortage, then we are losing this profit of $70 per jacket. Okay. If we have unsold jackets and the season finishes, we sell them at a deep discount for $70. So what is our cost of excess? Well, we bought them for $110 and now we are selling them for $70. So we are losing $40 per jacket. So if we have excess quantity left over, every extra jacket that is left over, we lose $40. That's our cost of excess CE. Our demand is normally distributed with a mean mu D of 3192, our standard deviation sigma D of 1181. We cannot reorder during the selling season, so it's called a one-shot inventory problem or a news vendor inventory problem. How many jackets should be ordered? Well, we want to order enough jacket so that the probability that the demand is less than the quantity we ordered Q star, that should equal our optimal service level SL star. And we know SL star is just CS over CS plus CE. Our CS is 70 and divided by 70 plus CE, which is 40, which is 70 over 110. That gives us the optimal service level, and then we need to find Q star, so the probability demand is less than equal to Q star is just equal to our optimal service level. Okay, so on the last slide, I explained how do we calculate CS and CE. CS is just the price we charge minus our cost of getting the jacket. This could be producing and shipping the jacket to retail store. This could be the landed cost we pay the supplier plus the shipping cost to get to the shop. So C is how much it costs a jacket to get it ready for sale. P is how much price we charge the customer. So 180 minus 110 gives us $70. The excess cost is what it costs us to get rid of an unsold jacket. So we paid $110 and we can get rid of it. We can sell it for $70. So we have $40 of excess cost per jacket. This is per jacket. Each extra jacket costs us $40. Each jacket we sell gives us $70. So the optimal service level is CS divided by CS plus CE, which is 70 over 100 or 10 or 0.636. So we want the probability that demand is less than equal to Q star to be equal to 0.636. So we want the probability, we want there to be a 63.6% chance that our demand does not exceed the jackets we have. If you look up the probability of 0.636 into a normal distribution Z table, we get a Z value of about 0.35. If we use Excel, we get 0.349. You can use Excel like this. You can do equals norm.inv. This is the service level. Standard Z distribution has a mean of 0, standard deviation of 1, which gives us a Z score of 0.349. If you're using the table, you would get 0.35 from the table because the table gives us to 2 decimal places. Then we can convert the Z score into number of jackets. We take the mean value, we do plus the Z score multiplied by the standard deviation. All right. So remember, the Z score is just some quantity Q minus mean over the standard deviation. This is a standard formula. So if you have the Z score, you want to get Q, we can rearrange this formula. Q is just going to be mu plus Z times the standard deviation. So this is exactly what we're doing here. That gives us 3604.17 jackets. Rounding to the nearest jacket, we should place an order for 3,604 jackets. That is the optimal order size for us, which would maximize our profits in this situation. Now, sometimes the demand is not normally distributed. Your forecasting team might say that, we have this table which gives us different demand levels and the probability of observing that demand level. The probability column should add up to 1. Okay. So let's say there's a 20% chance our demand will be for 10 units or 10,000. This could be demand in thousands, whatever we're talking about, right? There's a 10% chance. That demand will be 20. There is a 20% chance that demand will be 30, 25% chance demand will be 50, 25% chance demand will be 50. We can calculate the cumulative probability. Cumulative probability is the probability that the demand is less than equal to some level L. So what is the probability demand will be less than equal to 10? That's just 0.2. What is the probability that demand will be less than equal to 20? Well, there's a 10% chance demand can be 20, but there's also a 20% chance demand can be 10, and 10 is less than 20. So in total, there's a 30% chance, 0.2 plus 0.1, that demand will be less than 20. So we get 0.3 by adding these two numbers together. What is the probability that demand will be less than equal to 30? Well, demand can be less than equal to 30 by being 30, or by being 20, or by being 10. So I need to add up all three of these numbers. 0.2 plus 0.1 plus 0.2 gives me 0.5. So the cumulative probability column just adds up all of the probabilities for demand at that level or less. So what is the probability demand will be 40 or less? I take 0.25 plus 0.2 plus 0.1 plus 0.2, I get 0.75. And then the cumulative probability for the highest possible demand is always going to be 1 because there's no chance demand can be higher than 50. Okay. So if you have the cumulative probability table for certain demand levels, or you have the probability column, and then you often will have to calculate cumulative probability column yourself in the exam. This demand will be given, probability will be given. Then now demand is not normal. This is not normal probabilities. Then how do we go from the optimal service level to how much to order? So let's say our formula CS over CS plus CE gives us the probability 0.71. That's our service level. Then we look in the cumulative column for 0.71. Now 0.71 lies between these two values. Okay, So whenever our service level lies between two values in a cumulative probability column, we go with the highest value. Why? Because if we went with 0.5, we would have too few of quantity. There's a 50% chance demand will be higher than the quantity we go for. So we want there to be only a 29% chance demand can be higher. We want a 71% chance demand to be less than equal to Q. So we can go with 75. So we always go for the higher one of the two. So 0.71 is between 0.5 and 0.75. We go with the higher one because we want to err on the side of caution and have enough stock. So our Q star will be the quantity corresponding to a cumulative probability of 0.75. That is 40. So we are going to place an order for size 40 because Q star of 40 corresponds to cumulative probability of 0.75, which is the next highest one above 0.71. Okay. Let's do an example of this. So let's say we sell Christmas ornaments at a museum. We make a profit of $10 if we sell a unit, okay? But if we don't sell it, okay, we have a loss of $5 per unit. And our demand, there's a 20% chance our demand will be 10, 30% chance demand will be 20, 30% chance demand will be 30, 10% chance demand will be 40, 10% chance demand will be 50. How many ornaments should the museum buyer order? Okay. So the first thing we do is we calculate the shortage cost. If we have too few units in stock, then we will lose, for the extra demand, we'll use $10 per unit, the profit we would make. So that's CS. What is our cost of an excess? Well, if we have an extra unit in stock which we don't sell, we lose $5 on it. So that's CE. So our service level, optimal service level, is CS over CS plus CE, which is 10 divided by 10 plus 5, which is 0.667. This demand was given, probability was given, so we have to calculate the cumulative probability, and that's just going to be 0.2 for the first row. For the second row, we add 0.3 plus 0.2 to get 0.5. Then we do 0.3 plus 0.3 plus 0.2. That gives us 0.8. Then we get 0.9 and a 1. Once we calculate the cumulative probability column, we look in this column for 0.667, which is our optimal service level. So 0.667 occurs between 0.5 and 0.8. So we go with 0.8, and the quantity corresponding to 0.8 is 30. So the museum should stock 30 units, and the cumulative probability that demand is going to be less than or equal to 30 units is 0.8. Okay. So that is our Q star of 30 units. So before Christmas season arrives, we'll place an order with our supplier to make 30 units for us. And that is this is the end of supplement C. So just to recap, in supplement C, we did 2 extensions of EOQ. We did EOQ with quantity discount. That was part 1. Then we did the economic lot size when you have non-instantaneous replenishment. And then we did the optimal order quantity Q star for a one-shot or news vendor situation where you must place the entire order before selling season starts, and then during selling season you cannot get any replenishment, and then after the selling season, if you have excess inventory, you just have to dispose of it and you make a loss on that. So these are the 3 models we covered in supplement C, which improve our toolkit in handling inventory and inventory management.